So God has me thinking back on when I was younger, and He placed it in my heart to share this with the parents. If you are a parent that is more strict, you make sure that your children, do their homework and study and actually get into education. And they happen to have a friend around that always wants to hang out at your home. Instead of when your child is getting in trouble and not wanting to do what you tell them to do or whatever, instead of sending that child home, use your spiritual discernment, because that child may be seeing something in your household that they know deep down that they need, that they're not getting in their household. And you just might help a child out. I remember when I was younger, I used to always there was a few friends that I had, and I looked up to the relationships that they had with their parents and how their parents maneuvered. But at the same time, I was a child, so I didn't really quite understand it. So it's well, wow, my friend keeps getting in trouble all the time. But at the same time, I didn't want to leave the house. It's I wanted that lesson too, so to speak. But a child can't go to a parent, or better yet, a child definitely can't go to that child, their friend, and be like, oh, well, I want to stay. I want this lesson too. Because the child is in rebellion. The other friend is in rebellion. They're a preteen or teenager. And so they're trying to live their best life and, being defiant to their parent and doing all of that. Just like a child can't just go up to a parent and be like, oh, well, I need this lesson too. I want this lesson too. And the child may not even understand that's what it is. But just take it to God, pray about it. Take it to God and pray about it. Because I remember I also had some friends, and I would go to their grandmother's house. And she didn't care if they got in trouble, if they were cleaning, if they whatever, doing yard work, it didn't matter. If we were there, she just put us in on a loop of things. Okay, you're going to be in this too. And I appreciate her for it. May she rest in peace. As God has me sitting here and just reflecting on my adolescence, I can think of a few of my friends' parents that taught me very valuable lessons in life. And it was, I guess you can say in passing, it was mostly when my friends were getting in trouble. And just before I got kicked out, oh, it's time for you to go home. You can't have company to their child, right? So their child couldn't have company and I would have to go home. But I would learn that valuable life lesson with them as I was grabbing my things and heading out the door. And as I sit here as an adult, I just think about how I wish that I would have been able to stay and get the full lesson, or been able to get more of those life lessons from those parents. Yeah, it's one of those things to where I'm not a parent, so I know people may end up getting into my comments or talking amongst their friends or whatever about, well, she's not even a parent. How can she make this judgment call? So I'm going to do it from my experience of when I was a child and how I feel about it as an adult. Sometimes, depending on what, your child is doing or has done, if their friend is there and they did it together or whatever, I know that they say don't punish other people's children and all of that. I'm not saying put your hands on somebody's child, but at the same time, if you're teaching your child a life lesson that can help their life out, and they have a buddy that's right there with them that just did the same thing, it would be doing the world some justice to let that child that is with them soak up that lesson too, because they're going to go back out into the world and they may or may not get that lesson otherwise. Maybe God had you to discover whatever you discovered that your child was doing with them there because God needed them to learn that lesson too. I just want to point that out because I'm not sure if parents are aware of these types of things. There's nothing wrong with if you see that, come home, see that your house is dirty and your child was supposed to clean up, but your child's friend is there to do homework, getting that child to help out with the cleaning. There's nothing wrong with that. One thing that parents tend to overlook is that you may be a parent that is blessed to be able to stay home because your husband or wife works, or their job brings in a lot of money, so then you don't have to work, or you're able to work at home, or you have your own business or something like that, where the child that your kid is hanging out with, their parents may not be blessed in the same ways. They might have two parents that work full-time jobs, or work multiple full-time jobs, or works full-time, goes to school full-time. They may not have their parents there to teach them valuable lessons. There's a reason why God has them hanging out with your kid, and it's not just to develop a friendship. If they are coming over to your house on the regular, they could also be learning life lessons from you. They're in your care while they're at your home. And we all have heard the phrase, it takes a village. And sometimes it's just as simple as allowing the next child, your friend's child, to partake in some of the life lessons that you're teaching your child. If it's spring cleaning day and that child comes over, there's nothing wrong with getting them involved in learning how to spring clean. If that child comes over and your child is studying and has like some kind of report that's due or something like that, there's nothing wrong with telling that child to go back home and get their books, and they could come back and study and learn how to actually study and do a proper report if that's something that you excel in and you're able to teach your child how to do it. There's nothing wrong with that, because you're actually helping that child, you're helping that child's parents, you're helping the community, and you're helping the future, because these children grow up to be adults. There's nothing wrong with you extending the knowledge that you have and that you're already sharing with your child with the next child, because we're all here to learn from each other. We're all here to teach each other. At the same time, I remember me extending my knowledge to help a couple parents and their child out when I was younger, because they didn't know how to communicate well with each other. The last thing I want to talk about on this subject is me giving my parents credit, because I remember numerous times when my friends were over, they would shed wisdom, and they would not only teach me, they would teach my friends as well. And I also remember on numerous occasions my friends like kind of giving me props because of my parents and how they weren't afraid to, communicate and talk to us and share sites of wisdom with not only me, but with them, and helping my friends out with something that they may be going through, or teaching them something. I remember many of times, like, I grew up in a two-parent home, and mostly all of my friends only had like their moms or their grandparents or something like that. And so when my dad was home on the weekends and, working on the car or doing whatever he was doing, cutting the grass or whatever it was, like he would share that insight with our friends and teach them a little something in passing. It wasn't like, we were in school or anything, but he would share his wisdom, and my mom would do the same. It's one of those things where it really does take a village, and all parties involved can get something from it. It makes a parent proud and like, oh, okay, I see you, to their child when, let's say, they're sitting at the dinner table and it's like, well, what did you do today? And the child is all lit up with the excitement, like, oh, well, I learned how to do this. Oh, wow, where'd you learn that from? Oh, well, I was over at my friend's house and like, their parent was talking about this, and it does something for that parent. It does something for that child. It does something for your child to see, like, oh, okay, like I don't need to be as defiant to my parent. My parent really does have wisdom. Like, look at how my friend is soaking up what my parent is saying. Maybe I should listen as well. It really does help. And I mean, it can also give you your props when that child comes back and it's like, oh, wow, like, yeah, thank you for teaching me this. Like, that really helped me out. It helps all parties involved.